Hello and welcome back to Inside the Clinch MMA podcast. Today we are joined by one of our biggest guests thus far, a man that has been in the combat sports world for a very long time, has worked with some of the biggest fighters and biggest movie actors in the world. I want to give a warm welcome to the one and only Jacob Stitch Duran. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on, man. It's nice to just sit back and do some barbershop talk, man. So let's get on it.
Sure thing. So first off, can you give us an idea of what it's like to be a Cutman at one of these headline marquee events?
It's nothing like it, man. You talk about an adrenaline rush. Everything from the dressing room, getting the fights ready, seeing what goes on behind the scenes, walking out. All these fans are going crazy, and then you're in a great battle. But those are always the fun thing. I do so many fights that it's not even about the fights no more. It's about the fighters and hanging out and seeing their story and how I'm part of their life and all that. That's what makes it real exciting.
How are you able to transition into being a Cutman? I was reading a little bit about you, and you did some kickboxing. You taught some people how to kickbox to begin your career. So how did you transition into being a Cutman?
Well, I had to. I had a school of kickboxing. It was ASK, the American School of Kickboxing. And I was a trainer. I was a manager. I managed some of the fighters, had my own gym. And one of the things I had to learn to do was being a cut man. And that just kind of floated to the top. And I concentrated more on that. I couldn't be a full-time trainer because I always had a job. I used to work for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, so I had a Monday through Friday job. So I couldn't give you 100%. But the weekend warrior thing of being a cut man kind of appealed. Plus, the thing of making a difference in a fighter's career. So it was a easy transition, just a lot of work and, putting a lot of time in on your own expense and putting a lot of money in on your own expense as you learn the trade and just do it because you loved it.
And you've been a Cutman for how many years now?
How old are you, John?
I am 26.
Oh yeah, man! I was already a veteran when you were born. Yeah, I mean, it'd be 35 years.
Oh wow!
It was crazy. It's been crazy. It's been a fun ride.
And it's not over yet, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I'm just warming up, bro.
Hell yeah!
It's just the beginning. A lot of good things are happening, and people are recognizing for things outside of just wrapping hands and working cuts. So I'm working on some projects right now that are. I'm having fun.
What kind of projects can we ask?
Yeah. There's I'm working with a CBD company that created a cream for cuts. So they contacted me, and I always get people that offer me different things, right? And so being that I work for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company for 23 years, I understand the marketing and the sales of selling products. So I asked him, I said, well, what proof source do you have? Because I get that shit all the time, right? And he said, well, that's what we call you. And I said, all right, well, listen, I work with the bare knuckle fighters, and that's the newest sport, right? It's a great sport. But the cut ratio is real high. So J. Tim and myself have been going to the bare knuckle fights before the pandemic kicked. And as the fighters would get cut, they would sew them up in the dressing room, and he would give them the cream and explain to them the healing process, take a picture of them a week later. They would send us a picture, and the results have been tremendous. So, it's called the Cut Cream. It's available at Cutman for Hire Supplies, and I think every fighter should get it. It's one of them, am I going to get cut in my career? Chances are pretty high, right? So I would get a cut cream, throw it in your drawer, and, whenever you got to go out there and take care of yourself, just apply that all the time. So, I work with that, and I'm working right now on being a consultant for an MMA movie. Can't give you a lot of details on that because we're still in the non-disclosure elements, but I'm working on that. And, Michael B. Jordan just announced that he's directing Creed 3 in the new year. So, he had told me on the last one that he had already told me that he was going to direct it. It was like 2 years ago, right? Show you how this thing goes so far in advance. He says, Stitch, I'm directing Creed 3 and you're with me as long as you want, so. Yeah, so, then fights. I'm leaving Thursday. I did a show in Tulsa. My first time traveling outside of this COVID. I've taken my vaccines, and we all do fights in the bubble. And so I was in Tulsa, and this week I'll be in Atlanta for Triller. I'll be working as the house fighter with the 8 side. And then the week after in Orlando for more Top Rank, and so on and so on, man. So you can see it's got a pretty nice life.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
So you brought up Creed. Rocky has been one of my favorite movies. The entire series have been some of my favorite movies. And there's the iconic scene of you tapping on Creed's neck when the doctor is basically asking him if he could see, and you tap the number of fingers the doctor's holding up. I just wanted to ask you, can you give us any inside scoop on Creed 3? I know you're not allowed to say too much, but anything you could tell us?
No, I mean, outside of, Michael B. Jordan directed it, I think, I hope Ryan Coogler, the original writer of Creed, of course, he directed Black Panther and Fruitvale Station. And so I hope he's in it. But I think Keenan, Ryan Coogler's brother, is one of the writers. So I don't really know the detail. I can't give you anything as to that, but I can tell you, working with Sylvester Stallone, I've done 3 movies with him. I did Balboa when he fought his last fight. I did Creed 1 and Creed 2. And, you look at the history of Sylvester Stallone is an icon. And for me to do 3 movies with him, to me, it's a blessing. And what makes all this exciting, Eric and John, is, see, I grew up as a farm worker in the Central Valley of California, picking tomatoes and peaches and cotton and apricots and nectarines and shit. You ate it, I picked that. So that was my lifestyle growing up. And now that I'm here in the big leagues, I'm always a little Chicano that grew up as a farm worker. So I never forget where I come from. But, to look back and say, damn, I've done 3 movies with Sylvester Stallone. It's pretty badass, and I'll give you an insight on the first Creed. So when I get the script, I'm reading it, and my name is Marcel. And I said, man, I don't know anybody named Marcel. I'm gonna have to try to change that. But when it was time for Rocky to introduce us to Adonis, Sylvester Stallone, what Rocky becomes, his line was, "This is Stitch, the best cut man in Philadelphia." And it should have said, it did say, "This is Marcel, the best cut man in Philadelphia," but he changed it. Man, deep inside, man, my heart is going, yes, he did it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The next day I thanked him. I said, Sly, I want to thank you, man, for doing that. It just, he says, no, he goes, it has to be authentic, and so that's how that scene, but this scene with Tap Me Here was Ryan Coogler's thing, and this would be like the same Cut Me Mick type of scenario. But Ryan Coogler says, Stitch, what do you think if we do this? I think, yeah, that's great. That's ingenious. Let's do it. So that wasn't even in the script, bro. We just did it. And when I went to the premiere to see the first Creed, Arnold Schwarzenegger is sitting there, and Michael B. Jordan, Sylvester, all these actors, these famous people were watching the premiere. And when that piece came out, everybody started clapping, so kind of a nice feeling.
It's a great scene. It's a very great scene.
Yeah.
So Stitch, over your career, was there any particular fighter that you got a particularly strong relationship with, just working with them over multiple fights, or maybe, just a strong relationship over your years working with them?
Yeah, there's quite a few of them, man. It's whenever you break bread with, you guys, your friends, right? Well, we share blood. And there's a certain bond that goes with that, right? But yeah, Josh Barnett in MMA, I used to work with him when he used to fight in Japan for Pride, and the Klitschko brothers, Andre Ward. I mean, just so many of them, bro. It's just, the Brazilians, Anderson Silva, Vanderlei, all these guys, they call me Anderson, call me Papi. Lyoto Machida, when I congratulated him when he beat Rashad Evans for a world title, I go in the dressing room to congratulate him, and in front of his father, you remember his father's very proud Japanese. He's very, very shogunist. And in front of his father, he says, Stish, in the ring, you are my father. And if you notice with a lot of the fighters now, I use that quote to them because I am their father when they're in the ring, and I got to take care of them like they're my children. So I thought that was a very honorable thing. But yeah, a lot of great relationships.
That's a great segue into my next question. So you got the opportunity to work with some of the best fighters, as you just mentioned, Machida, Forrest Griffin, the Klitschko brothers. What would you say is one of your most memorable experiences till this day? You said you've been doing this for a very long time. So
Yeah,
Can
man,
you
we
give
can
us?
tell these stories. If you give me a fighter, I'll probably give you a story, right? But here's a good one. Is Vanderlei Silva. All right, I met him in Japan at his prime, where he was literally just a bulldog. He was a pit bull, right? Badass dude, just a bad dude. Well, him and Shogun and Verdum and Ninja, they gave me the nickname Santana, right? So we got a good relationship. When Vanderlei Silva fought Chuck Liddell, to this day, one of my top fights ever because of the pain of them. You could just hear them hitting each other, right? But about a week before, I saw Vanderlei and I said, Vanderlei, I want to give you good karma. When you fight, it's going to be my birthday. I want to wish you good luck, good karma. So I left it, right? Well, I'm working with Chuck Liddell and they're cracking each other, bro. It's just, you just hear the punches. Yeah. And I'm working on Chuck. He got cut. I'm working on him. Leon Tabs is working on Vanderlei. And after the fight, I clean up Chuck and I go to Vanderlei and he's all swollen, and I said, Vanderlei, how you feeling, man? He goes, no, Stoosh, I'm okay. And brother, right after all that fight, man, he looks at me, he says, Stoosh, happy birthday. I said, man, what an honor.
That's a great impersonation you do of Silva.
Well, then we give you one on you guys familiar with Fedor?
Of course,
Fedor Emelianenko?
The GOAT.
Right, you guys want to hear a story on Fedor, man?
Please.
So I'd go to Japan with Josh for the Pride fights, right? And Fedor was already a megastar. And Josh would pay me to go work with him, and guys would want me to wrap their hands. So Josh would say, you know what? I paid to bring Stitch over here. If you want to wrap your hands, $500. So man, I'd make $2-3 grand easy like this, man. And so I owe Josh. But Fedor had just come back from breaking his wrist, and this was his first fight back, right? And the promoter came and asked me if I could wrap Fedor's hands, and I immediately said yes, but didn't even think about money or nothing. So I walk into the dressing room, and I've worked with Russians before with the Klitschkos and all that. Now their personalities are a little different than, they're a little bit more humble and quiet, and they don't say shit, Yeah. And so I'm wrapping Fedor's hands and open and close, and I'm trying to talk to him, and he's saying very few words. And finally, I finished wrapping both his hands, and I said, okay, how do they feel? He goes, super. Bro, that's all he said, man. I walked out, my feet weren't even touching, and every time that Fedor fought after that, I was a guy that was going to wrap his hands, and him and his brother. But I'm going to show you guys something that I show very, very few people, because you guys, I just want to show you, okay? Give me a second.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Where's it at here? There we go. All right. So when I did the last Bellator show in San Jose, I walk from the airport, I get into the lobby, Fedor and the team are there. He comes up and he gives me a hug, right? And he says, I have some sweats for you. I said, no kidding. So he sent a guy upstairs. So check this out, man.
Wow.
So even put my name on them, right? So Fedor there, look at that stitch right here. Where we at? Look at that.
That's beautiful.
Amazing.
So yeah, so he gave me that, and it was great. But it's what makes it special is that these were made when he was in Russia, and for him to have thought of me over there, those are the moments that make it special.
Do you guys keep in touch at all?
No, only when we see each other at fights or somewhere. No, there's always that one love. You never, that is always there for affecting. In fact, I just did the Top Rank show Saturday in Tulsa, and one of the coaches, Luis, he works Brazilian fighters, Anderson and all that. And he comes up to me, seen him in years, and he says, the fighters, the trainers, we have so much respect for you because you spoke up when we couldn't speak up. This was about the UFC deal. But he came up to me and showed me that kind of love. So it's kind of stuff I get, man.
Yeah, Eric and I are actually both Russians, so we're huge Fedor Emelianenko fans. So
excellent.
Yeah, that's a surreal experience.
You know what? Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, no, it's and I tell you what, I work with more Russian, the Soviet Union fighters than I do with Mexicans. And you know, because I worked with Beirut Shumanov out of Kazakhstan, and the guys that own the restaurant, they invited me to eat with them, and we've been friends ever since. And they call me all the time, Stish, my brother, how are you, my brother? So they tell me, they say, Stish, you Mexican, you drink tequila. We Kazakhs, we drink vodka. We drink tonight, and I don't drink because I travel all the time. I can drink, but they challenged me, bro. 3 bottles later, they're saying, Stitch, niet. I outdrank them, man. But I love it going over there, Fedor, and, you know, even with the Klitschkos from the Ukraine, and just so many fighters from so many different countries that show me a lot of love, which is nice.
So you're one of the few that are known for being a Cutman. You know, Stitch, it's who you are. There's very few other people that are known for being a Cutman. Has there ever been a fight or a certain moment where you feel like if I wasn't in this guy's corner, the fight probably would not have gone the same way? Like, is there any event where you feel like you being in the corner, you had the largest impact of the evening?
Well, part of it, yeah, of course, it happens all the time. Happened Saturday. Joe Smith won the world title. He beat Maxim Vlasov on a decision. He got cut in the second round, and it's a kind of cut that's going to bleed all the time. But if you could control it for half the round, you've done your job. But him and Vlasov were going at it toe-to-toe. A great Rocky. It was literally a Rocky Ivan Drago type of fight. It was the Russian versus the American, and Joe Smith being the blue-collar Rocky guy. So it was a great fight. So yeah, I've made a lot of money for a lot of fighters, bro. You know, and Vladimir Klitschko, the first time I worked with him. Well, let me go back in 1990. You guys weren't even born. In 1990, when the Soviet Union broke. I say it was 91. Vitaly says it's 92. But anyway, we took the first team of professional boxers and kickboxers to Kiev to fight the Ukrainians, and the Klitschkos there were already superstars, you know. And for me to go and work with them later on down the road was a dream come true, you know.
I can imagine.
I've been blessed, man.
So I'm not sure I don't know if this is a sensitive topic or not, but you and the UFC parted ways some years ago because you said some words about the Reebok deal. You expressed your opinions, and then Dana White, he got a little upset at you. So I just wanted to
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he said that you're not his friend and all that BS. But I just wanted to hear from your side of the story. What exactly happened, and what is Dana like as a person from the outsider?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, I knew Dana before the gym. I mean, before the UFC, you know, and he was always in the gym. He said he came from a boxing background, but I don't remember him working any fights in Las Vegas. He was doing a lot of pads for a lot of the executives and the wives, but nonetheless, we were always in the gym together, and I would see him at the fight, sitting next to Lorenzo Fertitta. Lorenzo at that point was one of the commissioners for the state of Nevada. And but he's the one that brought me in. I was doing a K1 at the Bellagio with Scott Coker, and I saw him in the audience, and Dana asked for my card, and he called the next day and said, "Look, man, we bought the UFC. Would you be interested in coming on board?" And yeah, of course, it was, you know, dream come true. At that point, I wasn't even a big UFC fan. I quit watching it before because it was too violent. There was no rules and no regulations. Yeah. But Leon Tabs was the original. So anyway, Dana brought me in. He changed my life. I'm not gonna, you know, he gave me the platform to change my life. I changed my life through my performance, right? But he did give me that platform. So, but going with the thing with the fighters, and they were all getting sponsors, and a lot of fighters were making a lot of money on sponsors. Were making more money on sponsorships than they were what the UFC was paying them. I needed the UFC to make my money through my sponsors. So of course, you know, they went into the Reebok deal, and they took all the sponsors away from the fighters, and everybody's bitching and moaning, and they, you know, they felt that they were getting screwed. So they got all the Cutmen together, and they said, well, you guys got to get rid of your sponsors also. And I always kind of represented all the Cutmen. Whenever I got a sponsor, I would negotiate for them. Obviously not as much, but give them the billboard effect. We all have bad boy. We all have tap out, one more round, you know, and we give them that effect. But when they said no more, then I tried to negotiate for a little bit more money, at least a raise, and there was no money. And, you know, what they were paying us was, you know, compared to boxing, it's nothing. You know, I like say I needed them to make my money on sponsors. So John Nash from Bloody Elbow called me because everybody was effing Reebok and UFC and Dana. They were just big time. It was worldwide. So John Nash called me from Bloody Elbow and wanted to know if I'd be interested in doing an interview how the Reebok deal affected the Cutman. So going back to square one, where I told you I grew up as a farm worker, we were always fighting for our rights, and Bobby Kennedy and Cesar Chavez was our Martin Luther King. He's the one that started the boycotts of Gallo and all these great companies for better practices. Robert Kennedy got involved. So anyway, we were always fighting for our rights, and I thought about my parents fighting for what they believed was good for us. So I decided to do the interview, and the interview I was very politically correct because I work corporate America. I understood, and but it went viral, and they're effing Dana, effing Reebok, effing UFC, and I'm getting support from all over the world. And I'm at Costco, and my wife and I are shopping, and I get a call from one of my friends. We're all friends that they want to talk to me, and I kind of knew what it was because I mean I'm getting a shitload of calls, and I'm getting offers from all over the world, and I'm getting interviews. I did 57 interviews in a week. Wow. Had camera crews coming to my house, and it was the biggest thing in MMA. So I told them, give me about an hour. So I got home, and actually right here where I'm sitting at right now, Mark called me and Jesse called me, and Mark, and we're all friends, and his voice is kind of cracking. And the only thing he said is because of the Reebok deal, the UFC is not going to use you no more. And I kind of took a shot then, but I expected it. And I said, all right, well, do me a favor. You tell Dana, since he brought me in, that he should have called me. You tell Dana, I said he ain't got no balls. That since he brought me in, he should have called me. And of course, that's when he said, Stitch and I were never friends. So best thing ever happened to me, bro. But always fight for your rights. That's always been my nature anyway, is to, make sure that people are taken care of.
Have you spoken to Dana at all since, or is that relationship over? That's it?
No, people ask me that. That's a question they ask all the time. So, well, what would you do? I said, shit, I'd shake his hand and say, thanks for letting me go. Best thing ever happened to me. I mean, when I did the first Creed, so I'm at the party that they have after the movie, right? Wesley Snipes comes up to me, and I don't know who Wesley Snipes. I know who Wesley Snipes is, but I don't know him. He comes up to me and shakes my hand and says, hey, the UFC did you wrong. He said. So I knew I was in good hands when Hollywood knew about it, and people still, it's been 5-6 years, people still stop me and ask me, and and I ain't got nothing to hide, but I'm reserved to represent.
Do you assume the situation would be the same with the new Venom deal in place? Do you think that would be similar to what Reebok had?
I don't know. I think I was looking at their paying. They were paying these guys garbage compared to what they were getting before. But I don't know I think they increased the pay per fight.
I feel like there was a small increase, but they're still not allowing patches and sponsors. So I mean,
that's it. But it's a shame because you see the ring girls with it, and you see them on the mats, and you see them everywhere but the fighters. But maybe that's part of the control system. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm out of it.
It's a very small pay raise from Reebok to Venom, so probably the same. It's probably same store, just different brand now. Yeah. So I saw that you expressed some thoughts on Conor McGregor. You're not his biggest fan. I was just wondering why that is.
No, not that I'm not his biggest fan. I like Conor McGregor. I think I worked his first fights, and I told him that you're the Mexican of that side of the water because you could fight and you could drink. But no, I like him. I think when it comes to marketing, I think he's overstepped some boundaries in marketing, but I understand marketing. And I think what he's done for himself on a marketing aspect, and everything is based on marketing. Where we're at now, where you're at right now, is you got to sell yourself, and he's done a tremendous job. But no, if I see, I think last time I saw him was in Boston when he fought, and to see him, I'm sure he'd give me a hug. I'd give him a hug. So I have no problem with him at all.
That's great. I mean, there were some videos that I saw online that I thought you guys might have.
Some of the shit he was talking about. Well, no. Let me tell you the relationship. I'll give you another side story. And so when I did, it was New Year's Eve. I think it was PFL or Bellator at Madison Square Garden, and I walk in the dressing room, and John Kavanagh was there working with, I think, Patty Kilpatrick. And he comes and gives me a hug and says, hey, I want to talk to you about working with Conor when he fights Floyd. I mean, that's the relationship we've had, right? And I said, yeah, of course, the biggest fight ever, right? I'll be glad to. And so we talked a little bit, and I had to go to ringside and work some fights and came back to the dressing room. He says, I just finished talking to Conor, and he likes the idea. And I had told him I had 4 shows already booked, big ones, right? And he says, well, he wants to know if you could cancel them because we want you in the gym every day wrapping his hands and all that. And of course, the fight was so big that it made sense. I said, yeah, I'll do it. So my people got a hold of his people, and they came back and simply said I was too expensive. But that wasn't the case because the price that I offered based on what he was getting paid was peanuts. And more of me being there, I would have got my residuals for being there than that. But there was no counter offer. And, John Kavanaugh says, yeah, but I think it wouldn't have looked good for the UFC or Dana if I would have been working with Conor McGregor after Dana let me go and training at the UFC training centers. So no, that's if I said anything bad about Conor, it's probably, some of the things maybe I disagreed on him saying, but I understand, so.
We have a few fights coming up in UFC. So we have Robert Whittaker is going to be taking on Kevin Gastelum, and then Kamaru Usman is going to be taking on Jorge Masvidal. So I just wanted to know, what are your predictions on those 2 fights?
Man, I don't even predict fights because I tell you what, if you ask me, because we're all armchair quarterbacks, we don't know. I can say Jorge and you can say, Usman.
Yeah, we don't know, but who do you have a stronger feeling towards?
Well, no, here's how I look at. I look at them, and what are the probability of a Cutman getting some work? That's the way I look at fights. And on those, yeah, both of them are gonna need a solid Cutman because they're both gonna bang each other. Yeah, so it's Robert Whittaker. I remember him coming up as I was leaving. Gastelum, I've worked his fights, so I know he's tough as nails. But it's been 6 years, 7 years since I've seen him work. So it's tough for me to give an opinion, even Robert, and Usman, I've never seen him fight. Yeah, I saw him weather one time.
Okay,
so
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I don't, there's so many new guys in the game anymore, and now with the UFC that I don't even know who, that the people that I work with are going or they're gone. And there's a whole new crew of people, but the ones that I work with are the ones, they had personalities. Don't seem that there's and people are saying it's not about the fighters, it's about the UFC, so, a lot of these guys, I just don't know.
So you've had the pleasure of working across different sports and organization, boxing, kickboxing, different MMA organizations. Is it different from one to the other, or is it for you just like another day at work, you wrap the hands and you get to the corner and do the best you can to defend the guy out there?
Yep. The same day, same thing. A wrap is a wrap and a cut is a cut, And like I say, it's not so much those moments anymore. It's more of the relationship I have with you. As I'm there wrapping your hands, I'm talking to you, I'm, trying to make you comfortable. I finish wrapping both your hands. I check them out. I always make sure you give me a hug. I'll give you a hug. And then you go out there and do your thing, And like Frank Mir said in one quote, he says, when I see Stitch walking into the dressing room, my stomach just falls because I know it's time to fight, So I'm in those moments.
Do you get nervous at all as well? Especially when there's like huge crowds, everyone is looking at you. Do you get nervous at all? No,
not no more. I remember, even Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, that was real loud. But when Klitschko fought Anthony Joshua in Wembley Stadium, it's like 90,000 Brits, which is like 150,000 of somebody else. It was so loud that it was just a buzz, And yeah, you gotta love those moments. You gotta kind of absorb them because they're quite historical.
I can't even imagine.
It's crazy.
That's insane. So Stitch, thank you very much for joining us. Any words to the audience before we wrap it up?
Nah, man, you guys keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, we did a show before, right?
Yeah, I actually met you at Madison Square Garden a couple of years ago.
Maybe that's what it was. But you should be in Hollywood, bro.
Oh, I wish. If you know anybody.
I'll get you in Creed 3, man. I'll be your agent.
Oh, hell yeah, definitely. I'm down.
Yeah, all right.
Let's do it.
Man. Well, you guys, thanks for having me on. Huh?
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Thanks so much for your time. Take care.
Best of luck. Take care.